6:45 in the morning, January 20th, 2012. Coatesville, New Zealand. The pristine silence of one of the most exclusive neighborhoods on Earth was violently torn apart. It wasn't the sound of early morning traffic, nor the waking of nature. It was the deafening, chest-vibrating roar of rotor blades. 2 police helicopters descended from the gray sky, hovering aggressively low over the mansion's roof, the downwash whipping the trees into a frenzy and rattling the bulletproof glass of the estate below. On the ground, the scene unfolding looked less like a police procedure and more like an invasion of a hostile nation. A convoy of black tactical vehicles smashed through the perimeter, their heavy tires tearing up the perfectly manicured lawns. Dozens of elite operatives from the Special Tactics Group poured out like a dark tide. Clad in full-body armor, wielding automatic assault rifles, and flanked by attack dogs, they breached the massive front doors. The sounds of shouting, shattering wood, and the heavy thud of military boots on Italian marble echoed through the vast, empty hallways. Who was the target of this military-grade siege? A warlord hiding nuclear secrets? A cartel kingpin who had just ordered a massacre? All this firepower, all this orchestrated intimidation, was deployed to hunt down a single, overweight man, shivering in a secret panic room concealed behind a wardrobe. A man who had never held a gun in his life. A man whose only weapon was a keyboard. His crime? Copyright infringement. This was not a standard arrest. It was the climax of the largest, most expensive, and most controversial copyright case in the history of the United States. It was an asymmetric war between the most powerful government on the planet and an eccentric internet genius named Dotcom. But how does a simple file-sharing website provoke the FBI to launch a paramilitary strike on the other side of the world? And why did this one man become the absolute #1 enemy of Hollywood? To understand why the United States government treated a computer geek like a cartel drug lord, we have to rewind the tape. We have to go back to the gray, industrial streets of Kiel, Germany, in the 1990s. Before the mansions, before the helicopters, and before the name .com became a household brand, there was just Kim Schmitz, a massive, socially awkward teenager who found the real world too small, too limiting, and too boring. He escaped into the glowing green phosphorus of a computer monitor. In the digital realm, his physical size didn't matter. Only his intellect did. And his intellect was terrifying. By the time he was a young adult, he wasn't just using the internet. He was bending it to his will. He claimed to have breached the security of NASA, the Pentagon, and Citibank. He didn't do it for money, initially. He did it for the thrill. He did it to show that he could unlock doors that were supposed to be impenetrable. He was a digital Houdini, styling himself as a white hat hacker, a security consultant who would break into your house just to show you that your locks were broken. But fame was addictive, and Kim wanted more than just notoriety. He wanted an empire. Fast forward to 2005, Hong Kong, the city of neon lights and unrestrained capitalism. Kim had a vision that was deceptively simple, but technically revolutionary. In an era where email attachments were tiny and transferring data was a nightmare, he created a locker in the clouds. He called it Megaupload. The premise was innocent enough. Upload your files, send a link, download anywhere. It was a utility, a tool, but human nature took over. People didn't just use it to send spreadsheets or family photos. They used it to share everything: movies, music albums, software, entire seasons of TV shows. Megaupload exploded. It didn't just grow, it mutated into a leviathan. At its absolute peak, the statistics were simply mind-bending. This single website was responsible for 4% of all internet traffic on the entire planet. Think about that. 4% of the global data flow was passing through Dotcom's servers. It had 150 million registered users, 50 million visitors every single day. It was bigger than Twitter at the time. It was a digital nation-state, and Kim was its king. And he lived like one. He legally changed his last name to .com to signify his total fusion with the web. He became a caricature of a Bond villain. He stood 6 feet 7 inches tall, weighing over 300 pounds, always dressed in black. He moved into the most expensive rental property in New Zealand. He bought a fleet of luxury cars, Mercedes, Cadillacs, Rolls-Royces, and put vanity license plates on them that mocked the establishment. God, CEO, hacker, mafia, and stoned. He threw parties that cost millions, renting super yachts in Monaco, racing in the Gumball 3000 rally, and surrounding himself with supermodels and celebrities. He released music videos rapping about his own greatness. He was loud, he was flashy, he was unapologetic. But while Kim was popping champagne on the deck of a yacht, a storm was gathering in Los Angeles. To the executives in Hollywood, to the Motion Picture Association of America, Kim Dotcom wasn't an innovator. He was a thief, a robber baron on a digital scale never seen before. They calculated that Megaupload was costing the entertainment industry $500 million in lost revenue. Every time a user downloaded a blockbuster movie for free on Megaupload, Hollywood saw red. They didn't see a platform. They saw a mega conspiracy. They saw a criminal enterprise designed specifically to profit from stolen intellectual property. And the louder Kim Dotcom bragged about his wealth, the more determined they became to destroy him. He wasn't hiding in the shadows like a typical pirate. He was dancing in the spotlight, effectively daring them to come and get him. And so, the gears of the American justice system began to turn, slowly at first, then with crushing momentum. Lobbyists pressured politicians. Politicians pressured the Department of Justice. The FBI opened a file. They called it Operation Takedown. Kim Dotcom thought he was untouchable in his New Zealand fortress, protected by distance and jurisdiction laws. He believed he was just a service provider, protected by the same laws that protected YouTube or Google. He was wrong. He had no idea that he was being watched. Every email, every Skype call, every bank transfer was being monitored. The trap was being set, not just to shut down a website, but to make an example that would terrify the entire internet. While Kim Dotcom was busy racing his cars and expanding his empire, a ghost team was assembling in Washington, D.C. This wasn't just a copyright case anymore. It had evolved into a full-blown racketeer-influenced and corrupt organizations act investigation. RICO. This is the kind of heavy legal artillery usually reserved for the mafia, not website administrators. The FBI didn't just want to prove that copyright infringement was happening on Megaupload. That was obvious. Everyone knew it. To win a case of this magnitude, they had to prove something much harder: criminal intent. They had to prove that Kim Dotcom and his executive team weren't just negligent landlords of a digital storage space, but active architects of a criminal conspiracy designed to plunder the entertainment industry. For months, federal agents quietly obtained warrants to intercept the internal communications of the Megaupload leadership. They were reading their emails. They were monitoring their Skype chats. They were practically sitting in the boardroom with them. And what they found was a goldmine of incriminating evidence. The public face of Megaupload was clean. They claimed to comply with the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. When a movie studio complained about a pirated link, Megaupload would delete it. But the FBI discovered a dirty little secret behind the scenes. They found that while the company was deleting the specific link reported, they were deliberately leaving the actual file on their servers, knowing that thousands of other duplicate links still pointed to it. It was a shell game, a game of whack-a-mole, where the mole never actually died. But the smoking gun wasn't just in the code, it was in the money. The investigation uncovered the Uploader Rewards program. This was the engine of the beast. Megaupload paid cash rewards to users who uploaded files that generated the most downloads. The FBI argued that this system directly incentivized piracy. You don't get 1 million downloads for a family vacation video. You get 1 million downloads for the latest Harry Potter movie or a leaked Lady Gaga album. By paying these super uploaders, the government claimed Kim Dotcom was essentially on the payroll of the pirates. The internal emails were devastating. In one intercepted exchange, a senior executive joked about their business model, effectively admitting that they were a modern-day Pirate Bay. But with better branding, they weren't oblivious. They were arrogant. They believed they had found a loophole in the law large enough to drive a truck full of money through. However, the biggest mistake Kim made was geographical. He thought he was safe in New Zealand, thousands of miles away from American courts. But the internet has physical roots. The FBI traced the flow of data and discovered that hundreds of Megaupload servers, the physical hard drives holding the stolen movies, were leased from a company called Carpathia Hosting. And where was Carpathia Hosting located? Ashburn, Virginia, United States of America. That was the hook. Because the servers were on American soil, the crime was technically committed on American soil. The Department of Justice now had their jurisdiction. The trap was primed, but capturing Kim was a logistical nightmare. The FBI couldn't just fly to New Zealand and arrest him. They needed the cooperation of the local authorities. They needed the New Zealand police to execute the warrant on their behalf. Meetings were held in secret. Surveillance teams were dispatched to Coatesville. They watched the mansion. They mapped the perimeter. They studied the security systems. They knew Kim had armed guards. They knew he had a panic room. They treated the upcoming operation not as a white-collar arrest, but as a high-risk tactical extraction. The threat assessment was raised to the highest level. The timing had to be perfect. They chose January 20th. It wasn't a random date. It was the day before Dotcom's 38th birthday. He was planning the party of the Centuria, massive celebration, with friends, family, and staff. The authorities knew everyone would be there. They knew his guard might be down. In the days leading up to the raid, the tension was suffocating, though Kim felt none of it. He was busy finalizing the playlist and the catering. Meanwhile, a few miles away, the Special Tactics Group was loading magazines, checking body armor, and briefing the helicopter pilots. The indictment was sealed. The extradition papers were drafted. The assets to be seized were listed. 18 luxury cars, huge bank accounts, giant flat-screen TVs, and even the jet skis. They were going to strip him of everything. The digital dragnet had closed. The evidence was secured. The only thing left was the kinetic strike. The silence of the investigation was about to be broken by the deafening noise of the raid we witnessed at the beginning. But what happened after the smoke cleared? That was when the real war began. Not with guns, but with lawyers. The raid was over in hours, but the war for Dotcom's life was just beginning. Dragged from his mansion in handcuffs, stripped of his assets, and thrown into a New Zealand jail, Kim looked like a defeated man. The United States government declared victory. They had cut the head off the snake. Megaupload was offline. The servers were seized. The message to the world was clear. No one is beyond our reach. But they underestimated their opponent. Kim didn't break. He bounced back. After spending a month in prison, he was granted bail. He returned home, not to a mansion, but to a smaller house, wearing an electronic ankle monitor. And he went on the offensive. He hired a legal dream team and turned the courtroom into his new battlefield. The case quickly descended into a chaotic farce that embarrassed the New Zealand government. It was revealed that the Government Communications Security Bureau, New Zealand's spy agency, had illegally spied on Dotcom before the raid. They had treated a legal resident like a foreign terrorist, violating their own laws. The Prime Minister of New Zealand was forced to issue a public apology. The illegal raid became a global scandal. For 12 long years, Kim fought extradition. 12 years of appeals, countersuits, and delays. He became a father again. He launched a new file-sharing site called Mega. He even released a music album. He became a symbol of resistance against American overreach, painting himself not as a criminal, but as a freedom fighter for internet privacy. He argued that he was just the postman, and you don't arrest the postman if someone sends drugs through the mail. But the United States Department of Justice was relentless. They didn't care about the apologies or the procedural errors. They wanted him in a Virginia courtroom. They wanted him to face decades in federal prison. The legal tug-of-war dragged on until it seemed like it would never end. It became a stalemate, a cold war of attrition. Then came the climax, the final blow. In August of 2024, the hammer finally dropped. New Zealand's Justice Minister, Paul Goldsmith, signed the extradition order. After more than a decade of maneuvering, the highest levels of government had spoken. Kim Dotcom would be sent to the United States to face trial. Kim's reaction was immediate and defiant on social media. "I love New Zealand. I'm not leaving. But the walls are closing in, tighter than ever before." The Kim.com saga is reaching its final, inevitable chapter. So, what is the legacy of this $50 million raid? Megaupload is dead. But did piracy die with it? No, it just evolved. When Megaupload fell, a hydra emerged. Streaming sites, torrents, and private clouds filled the void instantly. The internet healed around the wound. The raid didn't stop copyright infringement. Instead, it changed the very nature of the internet. It marked the end of the Wild West era of the web, where anything went and consequences were theoretical. It ushered in an age of surveillance, compliance, and control. It proved that if you become too big, too loud, and too disruptive, the powers that be will not just fine you, they will dismantle your entire existence. Today, Kim.com remains a polarizing figure. To some, a martyr of digital freedom. To others, a greedy criminal who profited from the hard work of artists. As we look back at the helicopters hovering over that mansion, we are left with a haunting question. In a world where our data lives on servers we don't control, owned by companies that can be shut down overnight, do we really own anything? Or are we all just renting space in someone else's digital empire, waiting for the police to knock on the door? This was the raid that cost $50 million. But the price of our digital freedom, that might be much higher.